Now, there are calls for Kiwisaver hardship withdrawal changes after too many people have learnt to manipulate the system. Inland Revenue data shows there was almost $49 million withdrawn for hardship reasons last month. In September. In September, 49 million, and that is up from 36 million a year earlier. Withdrawals can be made when someone cannot meet their living expenses or needs to pay things like medical treatment. But there have been concerns that people have been making withdrawals in situations where there are other options available to them or using money for purposes other than they've claimed. One banking industry source said they heard of people using a withdrawal on Botox and lip fillers. Another Kiwisaver provider said a hardship application had been approved because someone could not sell their Range Rover fast enough. David Verry is a financial mentor at North Harbour Budgeting Services and says a hardship withdrawal was the number one request from new clients. And he joins me now. David, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Botox and lip fillers. David, ever heard of that?
No. Wouldn't happen if you were dealing with a financial mentor. And I guess I've sort of read that and I'm going, you're joking. I mean,
isn't that crazy?
For the Kiwisaver provider to even say, we're going to provide a payout because you can't get rid of your Range Rover. I mean, I'm sorry, the Kiwisaver provider needs their head read.
Yeah,
really.
Well said. Hey, you say that the number one request from new clients is a hardship withdrawal. Does that surprise you? And has those requests ramped up in, say, the last 2 or 3 years?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. Look, we're still going through cost of living increases, incomes that are not keeping up with things. We're dealing with, unemployment. Even stats are showing we've just now gone to the height of our unemployment. This comes as absolutely no surprise. And I guess we see this. We'll call it this ramp up. Yes, it's been increasing as we go on. But again, these are positions of genuine hardship. These are positions when financial mentors are dealing with people, they are in crisis. Okay. So when I read these things about Botox and this and that, I'm going, well, sorry, not when you're dealing with financial mentors. Financial mentors will only, we look at, and somebody says, it should be a last resort. It virtually is. When we get requests for this, someone will come in and say, I'd like to do a hardship withdrawal. So right, okay, well, let's just back up the bus. Yeah. That is an option, but let's look at all other options first. And in fact, I sort of typically would say, usually it is the second to last option that we ever look at, and the last option is insolvency. And in fact, we have clients that will choose insolvency over a Kiwisaver hardship. Wow. To preserve their Kiwisaver, but also their financial position is such that, look, any number of arrears that you get cleared, etc., is not going to help you. So they might choose insolvency. We do not default. We do not default to Kiwisaver hardship. We look at all other options, as we are bound to do. All of the Kiwisaver providers, if you look at their instructions, you have to have examined and thought about all other options that you can go through first, which includes, we were dealing with people with mortgages through, when mortgage rates were at the sort of the 7%. Yeah. So a lot of people behind in their arrears. Now, those people, we had people earning over $100,000, $200,000. Now, they had to front to Work and Income and ask Work and Income, can I get assistance? That's one of the rules that you have to go through. You have to be declined. So we work through all other options. And if it turns out, well, look, we've tried everything else. We've tried to get restructured. We've tried to work with the creditors. We've gone through the hardship protocols for the people, for the finance companies or the debt collectors, etc. If people can't make it, we will have examined all of those options first and tried to implement them. What the Kiwisaver providers don't see is the number of people that turn up and say, I'd like to do a Kiwisaver hardship, and then we work with them, and then we say, no, we do not need a Kiwisaver hardship. Now, that person, without having gone through a financial mentor, might have gone straight to the Kiwisaver provider. In many, many cases, we actually avoid that need to go for the hardship withdrawal because there are other mechanisms, and we will exhaust all those other mechanisms first. So, again,
David, sorry to butt in. So I know you're a financial mentor, but some people, they don't go to you, they go straight to the Kiwisaver provider, and is that they make the decision you don't have to see someone like you?
Well, it's interesting because quite a number of the applications, and this may not be across the board, but quite a number of the applications will say you need to have consulted a financial mentor first. Now, that won't be universal across all providers, but
Right.
typically they want somebody kind of in the middle who has actually, looked at it. I also come back to this thing. If you're having problems, all the Kiwisaver providers, the financial institutions, the banks, they all direct people, if you're having problems, get to Money Talks, 0800 345 123. Talk to a financial mentor. Now, we do an awful lot of work. One of the little controversial parts, of course, is that I mentioned, I think, my belief is that the industry, and this is the funds management industry, the banks, the finance companies, the debt collectors, we do an awful lot of work on their, with their clients on their behalf. Now, they don't pay a brass razoo for any of that. I have a very strong view that there should be a levy for those industries to be supporting financial mentors in the work they do with our mutual clients. And it's just not happening. And as I said, I don't think the Kiwisaver providers have any idea the number of people that we work with that we say, no, we're not going to go to Kiwisaver. You're going to need that. Look, I run seminars regularly, and I have a section on Kiwisaver, and I hammer home. I said, you are going to need Kiwisaver when you retire.
Yeah.
You will definitely
People
need
just
it. The
forget
pension
that.
is not enough.
No.
Yeah.
Hey,
so we don't
sorry.
want to. Yeah.
Sorry, David. I just wanted to jump into something that you believe that a Kiwisaver hardship withdrawal is no more than a 13-week band-aid. What did you mean by that?
So, again, typically when we have somebody present to us, we will do a budget, and invariably that budget will be in deficit. And when we're saying we're doing a budget, we're doing a no-frills budget. So if we're sitting with someone, we will take out anything that we regard as being this is not an essential from what we do. If that budget that we have then shows a deficit, we call it a genuine deficit, under the rules of Kiwisaver, you are then eligible, if approved, to be covered for 13 weeks of budget deficit. So every quarter, so you can reapply every quarter. So hence, and I think that's pretty well universal across the Kiwisaver providers as well. So we work in 13-week periods. Now, should we do that, and the two things we would look for are, one, we look to cover the deficits, the 13 weeks of deficit. So if it's $100 a week deficit, we're requesting $1,300, plus any arrears of debts that people have. So it might be, I'm behind on a car payment, I'm behind on my rent, I'm behind on a loan, I'm actually in an unarranged overdraft with the bank because of what's happening. So we're saying that those are arrears of debt. So we will be requesting for those arrears to be cleared, not the debts themselves. Now, of course, in that 13-week period, obviously they still have regular repayments to be made to those creditors. Those regular repayments are included in the budget and will form part of the weekly deficit. So hence that's why we work in this 13-week time slot.
Yeah.
Now, it's a band-aid because somehow in that 13 weeks, working with the client, we've got to somehow try and turn that deficit into at least a balanced budget, if not, if we could get a budget which is in surplus, that would be great. But it just gives us that time to try and work with them to somehow, can we get more income? Can we restructure the debts? Are there other expenses we can take out? Can we work to restructure loans with the creditors? So there's an awful lot of work. So I sort of have this view that our work is only, yes, we do a lot of work in assisting people to put their applications together. And I guess that's the other thing that perhaps the Kiwisaver providers are not necessarily taking cognizance of, that we spend a lot of time actually helping them to prepare those applications so that when those applications go in, they're as full as they can possibly be. I was working with a client who's actually in Australia at the moment, still waiting to get his thing. I physically delivered about an inch of documentation through to a Kiwisaver provider locally as support for the application. And I sort of, a little bit tongue in cheek, I say that actually the information requirements to get a Kiwisaver hardship withdrawal are far more onerous than it would be if I was turning up to a bank or a finance company to get a loan. And as they should be. I actually don't disagree with that. It's got to be a very strict provision, which I come back to. So if you've got Kiwisaver providers who are providing something because you couldn't sell your Range Rover. I mean, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
keep
that's
coming back to
shocking.
saying, really?
Do you think, David, that it would be better for the Kiwisaver providers to make the withdrawal payments directly to the creditors instead of giving the money?
Look, I'm all in favour of that, and that used to happen.
It used to
Or I
happen,
have
didn't
had
it?
circumstances. And I understand the administrative, requirements and the burden that comes with that. Look, can I just say, I spent this morning. I had a client, Kiwisaver Hardship, and it got approved, and the money went into her account. I spent the entire morning with her on the phone, literally making payments to all the creditors she was in arrears with. So we had something like 6 or 7 payments that we were making.
Oh, wow.
Look, I most often I don't get access to a client's bank account. This was a particular lady who has, we'll call it special needs, and so she's allowed me access to her bank account. But essentially, I spent the whole morning just actually getting payments ready, making those payments through to the creditors. We're talking to power companies, we're talking to phone companies, finance companies, etc., to get those all up to date, and then to get them back onto that for the next 13 weeks, back onto the regular cycle of payments. So,
God,
as I say, we do it, and this is typical for financial mentors. This just isn't me. This is, there are 750 financial mentors doing this around the country. There's an awful lot of work that they do on behalf of creditors. The creditors don't necessarily see that. The Kiwisaver providers don't necessarily see all the work that we're putting in to help them, because they're mutual clients, and we all want the right outcome. We all want people to be, to have enough so that they're not needing to withdraw, their Kiwisaver. As I say, it's.
Do you think then? Do you think we should be having a hard conversation around actually, is the hardship provision appropriate, and should it even be there? I mean, should we just make Kiwisaver untouchable?
Oh no, it has to be there. I mean, look, I hate to think. All I can tell you is if those were not available, I can tell you there'd be more suicides, more bankruptcies, more homelessness. Look, even simplistically looking at what happened through the when we were going through the the high interest rates for mortgages, and as I say, budget services had clients with mortgages, which typically we didn't used to see. Now those people were incredibly financially stressed as they went through. Yes, they're homeowners, but they were behind in their mortgages. The banks were putting an awful lot of pressure on them to make sure that they were up to date, or they were, looking at potentially mortgagee sales, that sort of thing. So, again, I'd have to say that the thought of that.
But there are people, David, that don't have Kiwisaver. What do people that get into financial problems do when they actually don't have a Kiwisaver? Because not everyone has Kiwisaver still.
That's correct. And
people think that everyone's got it, but they don't.
No, they don't. No, absolutely not. And that's a huge, and a lot of, and particularly beneficiaries.
So what do they do when they get into stock?
Bankruptcy.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm saying, should we make
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, then people go bankrupt then, instead of touching their Kiwisaver.
Okay, well, that again, we've got to remember that a bankruptcy sits on a credit record for, will sit on a credit record for, let's see, a full bankruptcy will sit on a credit record for 7 years. A no asset procedure will sit on a credit record for 5 years. It destroys their financial standing altogether. Right. Look, it's.
Well, look, the rules just have to be tight then.
No, possibly. I don't. I think some of the Kiwisaver providers need. Again, I come back to
the providers.
Some of those you will not get a financial mentor putting forward a Kiwisaver hardship application where they have an inkling, that there might be, it's going to be used for Botox, or it's going to be used for, because the Range Rover won't sell or anything like that. It's just not. I'm sorry that now that again, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Clearly it does, because someone's mentioned it. And again, why they ever provided it, I don't know. But again, that's where I guess the power of financial mentors and what they do, and those budgets that we put together are no frills budgets. Look, I'll use an example. I might have clients who smoke, and they'll be saying, look, I smoke 3 packets of cigarettes a week. And I'll be saying, look, guess what? That is not going to be acceptable to the Kiwisaver provider. In terms of your budget, I'm saying and probably the Kiwisaver provider will allow you a packet of cigarettes in a week. Okay, but they're not, I'm not going to, and they won't approve a deficit which shows that you're smoking 3 packets of cigarettes a week. Yes, possibly one, that sort of thing, but at $35, but not, not a cigarette line or something else that says,
so
there's
you've got people that are
$105.
smoking 3 packets of ciggies a week, but are wanting to pull out Kiwisaver for hardship reasons. Wowza. Anyway.
No, but that's what I say. We would get to that point and say that's not going to be acceptable. So that sort of, if someone sat with a financial mentor, that sort of thing wouldn't happen. That's where they would say, well, no, that's just not going to, fly.
I mean, David, I don't want you to you can't name clients or go through all of them, but I mean, there must be some you just shake your head at inside internally and go, well, I know why you're in this position. I mean, but that goes back to people just not knowing financial, they themselves are not good with money or they don't know what they're doing, I suppose.
No, look, there's a whole, call it, with the financial literacy, financial capability, that's a whole topic in itself. But